Philadelphia is a city of history and tradition. But through the years of progress and growth, one thing remained constant. Sundays were always devoted to the quieter and more gentle aspects of life. However, in 1933, the National Football League awarded Bert Bell a franchise for $2,500. And Sundays in Philadelphia haven't been the same since. Each week, all the professional football teams in the United States have the same object in mind: cross the goal line as many times as you can. This is the story of one of those teams, the story of the kind of freewheeling, high-flying excitement that caused the change in Philadelphia's Sundays. The 1967 Eagles were characterized by a highly effective and finely balanced offense. And the leader of this machine was a quarterback named Norman Snead. Given complete control of the team for the first time, Snead put the ball in the air more times than any Eagle quarterback in history and threw more completions than ever before. He throws a perfect pass, not a zipper and not a floater, but just right. And his 29 touchdown tosses more than double the previous year's total thrown by 3 quarterbacks. But the differences in the 2 years was most evident in Snead's receivers. Gary Ballman, Ben Hawkins, and tight end Mike Ditka, who came to the Eagles from the Chicago Bears, where he had been All-Pro 4 times. Ditka is considered the finest blocking end in the business, and no one throws his weight around in a crowd better than Iron Mike. At the split end was Gary Ballman, another new and glamorous addition. He runs perfect pass patterns, has cat-quick reflexes, and a noticeable ability to take punishment. And when he's in sight of the goal line, his speed seems to get even faster. At the flanker spot is a kid in his 2nd year of pro ball, Ben Hawkins. But oh, what a kid. Hawkins' grace and total relaxation when catching a pass combined easily with his natural speed and jumping ability. He's as loose as that strap that dangles from his helmet, and he became the NFL's 5th leading receiver, averaging over 21 yards every time he caught the ball. A gentle flip of the ball behind his back quickly became the Hawks' trademark of success throughout the league. Besides Ditka, Ballman, and Hawkins, Snead often used his two setbacks as receivers. Number 37, Tom Woodashek, and Israel Lang, number 29. And between them, the two caught 60 passes, 5 of which were good for touchdowns. Izzy and Woody are also big enough to give Snead all the extra pass protection he really needs. Receiving and blocking, they do well, but their greatest delight is running. And in 1967, they compile more than 1,000 yards between them. Lang is a bursting, twisting, fighting runner with unusual quickness and balance for 230 pounds. He was now in his 4th season, and each year seems to get better and better. The cast of characters was now set for the season's opening game against the Washington Redskins. Gary Ballman quickly became the crowd's darling when he scored on his first pass reception as an Eagle. Between the two new receivers, Ditka and Ballman scored 2 touchdowns and caught 9 passes for 150 yards. The Eagles took an early 14-10 lead when Snead got great protection and hit Ballman on a quick square-out pattern. When the Redskins began shutting off Ballman and Ditka, they left open the other member of the versatile trio, Ben Hawkins. In the second half alone, he accounted for 100 yards on just 4 receptions. A touchdown gave the Eagles a lead of 21-17. But now it was their turn to watch as the seesaw battle continued. They were playing the Washington Redskins, and that meant Sonny Jurgensen and his equally talented band of receivers. Snead and ex-Eagle Jurgensen matched wits the entire afternoon, with Snead winning the battle of percentages. He connected on 66% of his passes by throwing 18 completions in 27 attempts. But in the third period, Washington scored a go-ahead touchdown. And now Philadelphia would have to come back. The score stood, Eagles 21, Redskins 24. Jurgensen was hot until the Eagle defense began to cool him down. A safety blitz by Joe Scarpati stopped one drive, and a second was ruined by Floyd Peters. Late in the game, Jurgie went for the bomb, but Jim Nettles' spectacular save gave the Eagles the chance they needed. A draw to Tom Woodashek crossed up the hard-charging Redskins. The victory was secured and the trend was set. The Eagles had racked up 426 yards in total offense. The day belonged to Ben Hawkins. This was the 3rd game of the season, and it was against the Pittsburgh Steelers that this young flanker had his finest game as a pro. The Hawk caught 8 passes for 187 yards and 2 touchdowns. The pressures of a rookie year had been left far behind, and he had come of age. But it wasn't all offense for Philadelphia, as Jim Nettles, with the aid of a Nate Ramsey block, got the first of 2 key interceptions. The defense had been led by Dave Lloyd, but in the waning minutes, Mike Morgan got the second crucial interception. However, the score stood 24-24 late in the game, despite the defensive heroics. So the call went out to the man of the hour, Ben Hawkins, and he delivered. Snead virtually abandoned the powerful ground game because of his success through the air. He revealed later that Pittsburgh was doubling up on Ballman, leaving Hawkins guarded by a single defender, an almost impossible task. With minutes to play, Hawkins appropriately scored the winning touchdown. And the final statistics show that besides his 2 touchdowns, he had personally accounted for 250 yards in total offense. The 4th game of the season was also the first away game for the Eagles. They were now tied for the Eastern Conference lead, and a win in Atlanta was necessary for them to stay on top. United Airlines was a proud host to the Eagles, as it is to 15 out of 16 NFL teams. On this Sunday, the Falcons never got off the ground. As the score mounted, it was clear that the young second-year team never had a chance. Men like Gary Pettigrew, number 88, illustrated a difference in this victory than in previous ones. It was the defense that set up the scores and stopped Atlanta cold. Aaron Martin got the first of 4 Eagle interceptions. Nettles and linebacker Fred Brown, number 55, each got another one. And the crowning blow came when defensive end Don Holtz rambled into the end zone with Philadelphia's 2nd touchdown. It was the same story for the offense. There was just too much of it for Atlanta. Too much Woodashek, too much Ditka, and one too many end-around plays that worked. Number 70, Jim Skaggs, led Gary Ballman around left end and turned him loose up the alley for a touchdown and an insurmountable lead. But perhaps the rout was best highlighted late in the game when the Falcons failed to put on a rush and kicker Sam Baker turned out to be a comedian on the field as well as off. Lane Howell was at one tackle, and at the other was Bob Brown, who for several years has been considered the finest blocker in football. Brown tells us his own thoughts of the game.
I think that blocking itself is definitely a science. Of course, it depends on the size of the blocker. I like to feel that I'm a punishing type blocker. I don't finesse as much as some of the tackles or offensive guards in the league. I like to deliver quite a blow to a man and hurt him physically if I can possibly. I have to deal in violence. I think that the universal quotient for me is pain. This is what I actually try to inflict. I think that we all are professionals, let's face it. We all realize that there's a certain amount of pain involved in this business, but I think the guys who are on top are the guys that can inflict the most pain the most times.
With philosophies like that, the Eagles were now fit and ready to face their biggest challenge. And Coach Joe Kuharich was to see his team play their finest game of the year. It was the first meeting with the front-running Cowboys, and for most of the first half, the defense held them scoreless in a brilliant ballet of precision football. The defense's biggest test came late in the second quarter. On second down, Dallas's Dan Reeves was nailed at the Eagles' 3-yard line. On third down, Ron Medved broke in to upend Don Perkins at the 2. And on fourth, the Eagles' valuable right linebacker, number 53, Harold Wells, broke in from the right side to block a field goal attempt. With men like Wells, John Myers, and Dave Lloyd, the defense now relinquished the stage to the offense. The Eagles had scored again and were in control. They gambled with an onside kick, and it worked. Medved recovered, and Philadelphia was on its way to another touchdown. Lang caught one of Snead's 20 completions and danced to the 8-yard line. The first half ended with the Eagles holding a 14-point lead, 21-7. But Dallas came back and had quickly brought the score to 21-14. The 7-point Eagle lead stood until 2 minutes remained in the game when the Cowboys began driving. But with 73 seconds left, Ron Medved made his second interception of the game, the biggest interception of the year. The Eagles had just beaten the Eastern Conference champions in the season's 7th contest and were only 1 game behind in the standings. But on that day, no one could foresee what was going to happen in the weeks to come. Injuries began hitting the Eagles like an epidemic. Nate Ramsey usually played, but others could not. Early in the year, Bob Brown spoke in ironic terms.
Many people have asked me, what do I really think of football? Do I love it? And I would have to say frankly, and I know it's corny, but I really do. I love the game. I think that my Sunday afternoon wouldn't be complete if I didn't have a game to play at 1:30.
The next game after the Dallas victory, Brown was lost for the season with a torn knee. Timmy Brown played in only a few games, and half their scoring punch was lost when Gary Ballman and Mike Ditka became sidelined. For Norm Snead, it must have seemed like a nightmare. Pre-season injuries to Dave Graham and Al Nelson had already cut the Eagle attack. Now other injuries to Howell, Skaggs, and Medved further sapped their strength. It has been said that the team that finishes at the top is not necessarily the best, but the healthiest. After the 7th game of the season, Philadelphia certainly wasn't the healthiest team. The Eagles were finally able to gather their forces in the season's 10th game, and they gave the Saints the same kind of welcome they had received earlier in New Orleans. Timmy Brown played in his first home game in many weeks. Jim Kelly had replaced Mike Ditka at tight end and was the game's leading receiver. There were several new faces in the line, but Snead still threw 4 touchdown passes and totaled over 300 yards in the air. Along with Snead, the performances of Ben Hawkins were as consistent as ever. The Hawk had started the scoring avalanche in the 2nd quarter when he caught the most beautiful touchdown of the 10 he scored all year. Eagles 48, Saints 21. In Philadelphia, the veterans had their days. But the Eagles are also a team of rookies and young players that will form the nucleus of future teams. Light horse Harry Wilson showed the most promise of the runners, but suffered a crippling injury early in the season. His running mate was Harry Jones, number 23, the Eagles' #1 draft choice. Mel Tom became the most pleasant surprise of the rookies. At 6'4", 250 pounds, Tom showed good strength and the reckless abandon of youth. Eagles also possess some fiery youngsters in its core of receivers. Fred Hill is one good example, and another young receiver who stood above the rest was Jim Kelly. Subbing extensively for the injured Ditka, he showed he could catch the ball in any kind of traffic, and perhaps has the finest hands on the squad. This was the day the NFL record was set by Eagles center Jim Ringo. He hasn't missed one game in over 14 years. Everyone watched as the Eagles set numerous other records in their final game. The Eagles defeated the Browns, but the final season statistics coming out of the game were more meaningful. Sam Baker's points this day made him the third leading scorer in NFL history. His 824 points are topped only by Lou Groza and former Eagle Bobby Walston. Philadelphia also set new home and away attendance records, and Ben Hawkins was the man a lot of them came to cheer. He led the NFL in yards gained receiving with 1,265, which also was a new Eagle mark. Quarterback Norm Snead erased a sizable portion of the Eagles' record book. He eclipsed Sonny Jurgensen's club record set in 1961 for both number of passes attempted and most passes completed. The victory over the Browns ended a record-breaking season that had been filled with great hopes and bitter disappointments. But most of all, the year overflowed with a kind of action that filled every seat Sunday after Sunday.